Hello, thank you for being in a new video. This time we have an unboxing of the OPPO Reno11 5G. Let's get started. This device has just announced its arrival in Mexico at a price of 9,999 pesos. On the screen you see the reference price in dollars to give you an idea, but remember that the prices here are not the same as over there. So now let's see what comes inside the box, and then we take a look at the phone to see what OPPO can offer us at this price. Right off the bat, I like that OPPO includes this little tab to make unboxing a lot easier. That's something that seems very simple, but believe me, few manufacturers do it. Among them, Apple does. And the first thing we come across is this tool to remove the tray, which is always necessary. A quick guide that I call it the paper slips of a lifetime. And something that I liked is that it includes a holster. And I like the holster because it's a good quality holster. It doesn't just look like a transparent case that after a while is going to turn yellow, but it is a very nice green case. Honestly, it looks very nice. And this is something I like about OPPO, that even in the case it has a nice design. OPPO is a manufacturer that is always known for making very nice things, and that's why I like that the case is also nice in this case. Let's see what else is in the box. We meet directly with the cell phone, and let's see what are the details that this manufacturer wants to highlight. For starters, a telephoto camera for portraits of 32 megapixels. Definitely, with that, we are already finding it an attractive device in this price range. Then it says it has a 50 megapixel camera with a Sony sensor with optical stabilization. That's also a positive thing. Charging is 67 watts, OPPO's Super VOOC with 5 milliamps in its battery. I think this is a little bit more within the average of what we have in devices at this price point. And finally, another highlight is that it comes with color OS 14. That's something that might get some attention as well if the OS has enough advanced features. So let's take it off this sticker. I'm going to also remove the sticker from back here, in the back. And we're straight into the design of this back cover. Honestly, it looks really nice. It looks like it has a texture to it, although I would like that texture to feel to the touch as well. But we're talking about a completely smooth cover, which actually has quite a bit of reflections as well. So, from my point of view, I think I would prefer to put the case on it to have a matte design. But obviously here it depends on each person's taste. Personally, I feel that with the case it looks nicer with this matte finish. But there is no doubt that OPPO knows how to make very nice devices. Although honestly, the camera module doesn't look the prettiest to me. I feel like it looks a bit asymmetrical, like I can't find much shape to it. But I like that in the small details you can tell it's a well-built device. Here, for example, it tells us that the main camera is 26 millimeters. And here it gives us a little more information on the ultra-wide camera, which would be 16 millimeters. It doesn't tell us the focal length of the telephoto camera though. Let's turn the device on and see what else comes in the box. As you notice, we're looking at the 67 watt Super VOOC charger, which we had already mentioned. It's a charger that's a little bit on the large side. Honestly, in this regard, I wish it was slightly more compact, but that's the price to pay for having a charge that fast. I think it's gonna be a good experience. And the cable is from USB-A on one side and USB-C on the other side. Remember to use the original cable if you want maximum charging power. So, we've got some positives. Unlike Samsung and Apple, which don't include U-Charger, OPPO still does, and that's always a welcome thing. Now let me put all this away and I'll be back to take a look at the phone. And that's it. I've got the device set up. So now let me walk you through its main specifications. It's about 8 millimeters thick and weighs 182 grams. In this regard, it is curious because the aqua green version is slightly thicker than the titanium gray edition. These are the two colors in which this device is available. That's why I said approximately 8 millimeters thick, because this is 8.04 to be very precise. And the titanium gray edition, 7.99 millimeters. The screen is 6.7 inches in its diagonal with full HD plus resolution and 120 Hz in its refresh rate. I am glad to see that it is becoming more and more common to see this quality of screens in mid-range devices. In this case, it's upper mid-range, and it's quite good. It feels like a very good quality screen, which in addition, sure, OPPO accompanies very good special modes. And in this case, it is also able to adapt its refresh rate between 60 and 120 to improve battery life. It also comes protected with a cover called AGC DT Star 2. I know it's not very famous protection, but at least we are sure that it has some level of protection on this screen that is curved. And that usually one thinks it's much more fragile. But fortunately, in addition to bringing this level of protection, it comes with a mica glued on it from the factory. And that can also help protect it against some drops. It also has stereo sound. This is a feature that is definitely what we expected. But I highlight it because OPPO in past generations had put mono sound on this series. But finally we see something much more advanced to satisfy what one asks from a device of this price. So far so good. The front camera is 32 megapixels with f2.4 aperture, capable of recording in 4K. Here are some examples for first impressions. The screenshot reveals to us that the preview is still not very well optimized. But notice how after taking the picture, it does make a good balance of highlights and shadows. Maybe still a bit overexposed to some highlights. But the deeper analysis will be in the review. For now, I think it is a camera that will be able to give us a considerably good quality. What I liked and what I already mentioned to you is that it can record video in 4K. And that's something that not all devices do on the front camera. So here it left me with a good feeling. And on the back we have the 50 megapixel main camera with f1.8 aperture, then the 8 megapixel wide angle camera with f2.2 aperture, and finally the 32 megapixel telephoto camera with f2.0 aperture. The ultra wide camera has fixed focus, but the other two do have autofocus. Here I have some pictures just as an example. The ultra-wide camera seems to have a level of detail commensurate with its resolution. It doesn't seem to have much distortion at the edges, so I think it's fine, although the main camera I feel has a little bit warmer color rendition, so you get to feel some difference between one camera and the other. But I think the photos still come out with a good quality. I like the level of detail achieved. And remember that by having a telephoto camera, we're obviously going to get a better zoom. So this is the photograph with the telephoto camera. Here's the photograph with a 5x zoom, which I think is good quality. This one now is with a 10x zoom, and the maximum you can get is 20x. Notice how it even brings out the insects that were flying around this flower. So it's a good quality zoom. Obviously, it's a far cry from the zoom that the high-end devices give you, but it still seems to me to be an okay zoom. Maybe the color rendition gets a bit distorted when you're zooming in a bit more, so it could still improve with some updates. But note that having high-resolution sensors gives you this higher resolution mode, both with the main camera and with the telephoto camera, so you can get to have this kind of well-detailed pictures to zoom back to the photo. But the telephoto camera will not only be used for zooming but also for portrait photography. In this case, you are looking at a portrait picture with the main camera, and the result is very nice and good. But what I will like the most will be the portrait with the telephoto camera, because it gives a much better perspective. You see a good level of detail. So I think the portraits will come out very nice with that camera. In fact, I think it's more portrait focused than zoom, because 2x zoom you can easily achieve it nowadays by making a crop on the high-resolution sensor that the devices almost always come with. So I don't see it as zoom-focused, but the portraits look good. I'll tell you more about it in the review. The main camera can also record in 4K at 30 frames per second, although the ultra-wide doesn't seem to have those same capabilities. The battery is 5,000 milliamps, and that stands out due to the fact that it's a pretty slim device, and it also supports 67-watt charging, as we had already seen it on the inbox charger. That OPPO Superbox charging is usually pretty good. Plus it looks like it does feature smart charging, charge lock. So I think also at the software level it comes well optimized for battery consumption and charging. It has an in-display fingerprint reader which is optical. As you saw, optical readers are maybe not as fast as ultrasonic readers, but that's okay. It even has infrared to be a universal remote control. This obviously in conjunction with its IR remote application. But it is a feature that is becoming less and less common, especially in expensive devices. It comes with Color OS 14. 12 gigabytes of RAM that you can extend with virtual RAM. Although virtual RAM, I don't usually recommend it too much. It tends to deteriorate the internal storage more. So I'm going to leave it for the review in this default configuration. But I would recommend turning it off. And another attractive point is that it has 256 gigabytes of internal storage. You're definitely going to be able to store a lot of stuff in here. So that's a very competitive point. And finally, the processor is the MediaTek Dimensity 7050. This processor is expected to have a good power capability. I don't know if gaming power is going to be the necessary or the most attractive thing for gamers. But I expect for the vast majority of users, this processor will prove to be powerful enough. Anyway, we are going to do a test just to see an approximate of the power that this processor reaches. Although remember that the real power we will see in the review when we test games and applications and video editing. Let's wait for it to finish and I'll get back to you. And here's the score. 960 on single core and 2461 on multi-core. Confirming that it has enough power for the vast majority of users, although it could fall short for the most demanding, especially in the gaming section. But in the full video review, we will see a more detailed analysis of the power that can achieve this device. For now, we have reached the end of this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, you know you can tell us. And we'll see you next time.